Hello, 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 and welcome to Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. Hi, future lawyers out there. I hope you guys are grinding. I hope you guys are being productive. I hope you guys are taking all the positive steps that you need to do to take one more step closer to achieving your lawyer dreams. On today's show, Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams, we have a lot of things on tap. The goal of this session, of course, is we want to make sure that you get an opportunity to get your questions answered, and also that you leave away from this session learning what you need to do to take the next step in your journey. As we typically do, feel free, as the chat box continues to fill up, please tell me where it is that you are viewing our session from. And in addition to that, also let me know where you are in your journey. This week has definitely been a great week for all the future lawyers out there. We know that we have had some people who got their LSAT scores back. We also do know that we have some other people who are in the process of preparing for the LSAT this upcoming Monday. Do not be nervous. Understand that all the hard work and all the sacrifices that you're putting in is going to lead to a positive result. And if you have to take the LSAT again, you can still be a lawyer. If in fact you find yourself having to take another path to becoming a lawyer, understand you are not alone. There are so many people out there who their path to law, their path to becoming an attorney may not have been an easy one, but you can do it. On today's session, what we're going to be talking about specifically is literally trying to tell you guys how to repurpose your red flags. Understand, you do not have to be perfect to be a lawyer. I want you guys to type that into the chat box. You do not have to be perfect to be a lawyer. There's no perfect people out there. Nevertheless, what the goal that you have to accomplish, if in fact you've made some mistakes in your past or you have evolved and grown so much since those days in the past, is you want to be able to show your strength, you want to be able to show your resilience, and of course, you want to be able to let them know that you are more than worthy, that you are more than capable of being able to live your lawyer dreams. Because when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, this is what this is all about. This whole LSAT, this whole personal statement, this whole application process really is all about you trying to convince a law school that you are worthy and that you can do the work. And if given an opportunity, you will be successful. And so on tonight's session, we are going to have the luxury of having what I call her the queen of the comeback, Dr. Holmes. She actually is a lawyer and a doctor. And if you want to talk about making a comeback, then honestly, I want you guys to make sure that you tune into this. Because again, like I said, you do not have to be perfect to be a lawyer. However, you do have to be resilient, tough, and ready to weather the storm. And so we're going to have her join us today. But as the room continues to fill up, please let us know where it is that you are viewing our session from. I saw that we had people from Chicago, Illinois. That's what's up. Please, we see people from Long Beach, Cali in the building. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, my name is Anthony. I am the founder of Becoming JD, DC in the house. And again, my goal, my purpose is to make sure that you guys are prepared, to make sure that you guys are putting in your best effort to take the next step in your journey to becoming a lawyer. Now, one of the things that I'm going to start doing for these sessions is I want to make sure that you guys are always in the know. I got my notepad and I'm ready to take notes. And I hope that you guys are also prepared to make sure that you are getting these information to make sure that after you leave these sessions, you're taking positive steps towards your journey to becoming a lawyer. So I want to make sure and drop some gems to you guys before we begin our session. We see DC in the house. That's what's up. Houston, love you guys down there. St. Louis, hey, that's where I'm at as well. So again, I want to make sure that I drop some gems to you guys to make sure that you guys are in the know. One of the things that's going to be very important for you, especially if in fact you are one in law school or trying to go to law school, you have to be able to understand that the landscape of law school is constantly changing. And because law school costs so much and takes so much of a sacrifice, it is critical that you be in the know constantly. You have to make sure, and one of the things I encourage you guys to do right now, if not tomorrow, but right now, is go to your Google alerts, type in law school, and make sure that you have that Google alert set to your phone, set to your email, to ensure that anytime news is happening when it pertains to law school or when it pertains to the LSAT that you are in the know. So let me go ahead and drop these knowledges for you right now, okay? So first things first, Harvard Law School is now going to be doing a situation where they're going to be waiving the admission fee. It's a part of their new program where they're going to call it's called the Junior Deferment Program. So to all my underclassmen out there who may be applying to law school, this is a great way for you to be able to save on some coins and, of course, add Harvard Law School to the mix of schools that you can apply to. Hey, if it's free and you don't have to pay anything besides the transmission fee, I say why not try it? In other news, Thomas Jefferson Law School, unfortunately, just announced 9 days ago, lost their accreditation. So to my students who are at Thomas Jefferson Law School, of course, I'm more than sure that you're aware of this, but if in fact you are applying to law school, you want to make sure that you really think hard about making a decision whether you want to add Thomas Jefferson Law School to the mix of schools that you apply to. Because if in fact you are attending an ABA accredited law school, if in fact you are attending a school that is not ABA accredited, unfortunately the journey towards sitting to the bar may be something that's very challenging for you. So it's important for you to be able to know that information. In other law school news, also, let's see here, I got to make sure I say it right. The University of Laverne Law School recently lost their ABA accreditation as well. And so they will be what we call a California accredited law school, which means that they will be recognized in regards to sitting for the bar in the state of California. However, if you attempt to try to sit for the bar outside of the state of California, you may experience some challenges. And so the news is not all bad, but it's important for you guys to make sure that when you're making the investment of applying to law school or making the investment and signing a loan out to Sally, that you are prepared and aware of these changes, okay? And so in good news, we did see, based off of the Allure magazine, that former Nickelodeon, Disney, actor, songwriter, whatever, Zendaya is actually interested in going to law school. So she may be the next star to find herself in law school. So understand that you are not alone in your dream of wanting to be a lawyer. It's something that's shared amongst so many people. Nevertheless, what you have to be able to understand as well is that it's so many people that have the same dream of becoming a lawyer. That means it becomes that much important for you to make sure that you are raising your bar and elevating your writing and elevating and understanding how challenging this process is. Earlier this week, I had a chance to speak to the University of Illinois. If you guys are out there, please, of course, say hi. But nevertheless, when I spoke to them, I want you guys to write down these numbers because these are numbers that you need to know, okay? 1 in 35. For every one law student for every one applicant that is accepted into law school, 35 people are rejected. That means 35 people who worked just as hard as you did, who may have had higher or even lower LSAT scores than you, who may have had even better GPAs than you, may get rejected. So I want you guys to think about that and always understand that when you are not working, there's somebody else out there working tirelessly. So understand, for every one person who is accepted into law school, 35 people are rejected. Just think about that. All right, and so those are the biggest news that I want you guys to make sure that you pay attention to. One of the other challenges that a lot of you guys oftentimes experience is in regards to trying to find the best law schools for you. And so again, this particular portion of my show, what I want to make sure I get information out to you. All right, so the Princeton Review just released the top 5 law schools for women for the class for fall 2020, your class, or for the class coming up. And number 1 on that list was Stanford. Number 2 was Vermont Law School. Number 3 was the University of the District of Columbia. Number 4 was New England Law School. Number 5 was UC Davis Law School. WashU down in St. Louis also found itself in the rankings. And also, of course, Temple Law School, which is a fantastic law school, found itself as well. And you know what? Also, Brooklyn Law School made the list as well. So one of the biggest challenges that a lot of you guys want to have to face is trying to identify the law school that fits you. There's 205 ABA accredited law schools. All you need is one. And so I'm hoping that some of the resources that I was able to provide you at the start of this session will be able to help you specifically in identifying the schools that may be the best fit for you. Now, of course, if you have questions at any time, feel free to fill up the chat box. One of the guarantees that I always make to all of you guys out there listening to us is I will answer your question. And we will make sure that you leave this session with your questions answered. Of course, you can always take the time to send me a DM or email, because our goal and our purpose and the whole purpose of becoming JD is to ensure that we are now having law schools reflect the diversity that we see in the world today. Because right now that, of course, is not the case. But with your commitment, with your work ethic, with your resiliency, of course, we can be able to change that. Now, of course, on today's session, what we're going to be talking about is repurposing red flags. If, in fact, you're a person who is not perfect, please type in the chat box, I am not perfect. Because you know what? I wasn't perfect. And if, in fact, you find yourself possibly being a person who've had to transfer schools or be dismissed from schools or had to take time off from school, or your LSAT scores may not be as competitive, or you've had to reapply to law schools, understand that because you're not perfect does not mean that you cannot be a lawyer. There we go. I am not perfect. But guess what? I am not perfect, but I can still be a lawyer. And so we're going to wait for Mary, of course, to be able to join us for this session. I am really excited about this opportunity for us to be able to speak and to be able to grow and get your questions answered. Again, I know a lot of you guys are a bit nervous if, in fact, you got the LSAT coming up in November. And if, in fact, you got your LSAT scores just recently and you're not feeling the best, I want you guys to be able to understand that the whole purpose is to ensure that you guys are equipped to still get into law school. Because people get into law schools with LSAT scores below 150s. Yes, it happens. People get into law schools with GPAs below 3.0. Yes, it happens. But you have to make sure that you package and present yourself well. And that's the purpose of these sessions, of course. We can also talk one-on-one. But you've heard me speak before. Let's go ahead and get our featured guest on the line. The queen of the comeback, doctor, lawyer, dream maker. I want to make sure that you guys stay tuned, because this is something that I think everybody needs to hear. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. I am not perfect. That's great. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Dr. Mary Holmes, queen of the comeback. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm happy to do it.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that's really amazing about you specifically is when we think about law, right? And we think about lawyers, and we think about, we think about them as people who oftentimes don't make mistakes, who have not had to, who navigated this process flawlessly. And that is probably one of the biggest myths, one of the biggest lies out there, because there are so many people who are practicing law, doing big things like you, who, of course, had navigated so many challenges just to get to where they are. And I just want, of course, as we go back and forth in this dialogue, to give you an opportunity to tell a little bit about your story, and also so we can make sure that we are duplicating the blueprint that you used to be successful to become a lawyer.
Absolutely. Well, many of you, I'm sure, don't know who I am. So let me just give you like a quick snapshot. I think that the way that you describe me is so accurate. The comeback queen, that's one way that I do describe myself, because I've been through many obstacles in life, many traumatic situations, and, to the point where I didn't think that I would one day even have the nerve to apply to law school because of all of the baggage. And so the first thing I want to tell people is, regardless of what, the academic things is one thing, the GPAs, you're worried about your essays, you're worried about your LSAT score, all of that stuff, that's one thing. But when you have a past, and when I say a past, I'm talking about criminal history, when you've had some issues in your youth where you might have gotten into some trouble, or you just had some kind of setbacks and slip-ups in life, a lot of times that can be intimidating for somebody applying to law school, because they think that, who's going to accept me? I can have the highest GPA and have this blemish on my record. I graduated at the top of my class in undergrad, and I had so much anxiety just applying for law school, because I've had, having to disclose all of the different things that, unfortunately had occurred in my past. So get rid of that intimidation. That's the first thing, because it doesn't matter what you've done, where you've been, no matter how bad your past might be, you can outlive that. And the greatest thing that you can do is just take that step and go ahead and apply. Do what you need to do as far as having full disclosure. This is one thing that I want to say for those that do have, different blemishes on their record. And I'm just, putting it lightly, making it more palatable. but disclose everything. Full disclosure is everything. Full candor is everything when it comes to your law school application. And the reason I want to stress that, and many of you will hear this time and time again as you go into your law school career, is that everything that you disclose now is crucial to later on when you apply to the bar. If anything you disclose later on to the bar admission application, if you did not disclose it when you applied to law school, they can actually rescind your law degree if you did not disclose it up front. So that is very crucial. It's very important. And so I just want to stress that for those of you that are applying, full disclosure is everything. So, and if you feel uncomfortable and you wonder, okay, is this going to hinder me in any way? You submit that addendum explaining what happened, talk about what you've accomplished, talk about how you turned your life around, talk about the things that you're doing. I had a nonprofit, still have a nonprofit organization. I talked about the work that I had done in the community, all the different good things, all the positive things that I could think of. And not only did I get accepted at all of the law schools that I applied to, but I was also offered a full scholarship for one school and a full scholarship for the first year at another school. And so I'm telling you that I'm living proof that it is possible. It is possible. So get rid of that intimidation. Go for it. Don't let that stand in your way. Don't let that intimidate you in the application process.
Absolutely. Again, I'm joined by Dr. Mary Kay Holmes, doctor, lawyer, best-selling author. But what we're here today, my whole purpose and goal is to make sure you guys, I want us to be able to understand for you guys, is you don't have to be perfect to be a lawyer. But one of the best things ever that could have happened to Dr. Mary is because of the obstacles that she was able to overcome. Best ways to help distinguish you from everybody else applying to law school. Because those experiences specifically demonstrate your growth. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things it does is it demonstrates your resilience and how bad you want this. Because a lot of people are applying to law school, and nothing against you. If in fact you've had a flawless pass, you know what? God bless you. That's
great.
But if in fact you have had mistakes that have happened in your past, then what you want to be able to understand is that you can go to law school. And one of the things that we do specifically with Becoming JD is we try to feature people, show how we can normalize those struggles. Of course, we featured Mary Kay Holmes, Dr. Mary Kay Holmes. We, of course, also featured another gentleman who's graduating in the top 3% of his class, and he had a felony record. But one of the things you have to be able to understand is that if, in fact, you want to become a lawyer, all you need is one yes. But you just got to be able to take the time to be able to find it. And you also then have to take the time to be able to challenge yourself, to be able to show how much you've grown. Now, right. Dr. Mary, one of the things I definitely want to take some time to ask you about is, in light of all the things that you went through, what direction did you go in regards to how did you package how you presented yourself to the law schools? Because packaging, of course, matters because they're going to Google you. They may do a background check on you. So it becomes so much important for you to present it in a manner that not only, of course, may raise red flags, but also be able to let them know she's good. We want her. We want to be a part of that story because at the end of the day, you are auditioning to law schools and you're telling them, do you want to be a part of my story?
Right. Yes. Well, the advice that I would give to anybody applying that has to disclose that type of stuff, I definitely made sure that everything else was in tip-top shape. So making sure there were no typos, the basic stuff, all of these things we know that we should do. I made sure that my essay was on point. I made sure that I, talked about some of the circumstances that led to some of the decisions I made, some of the bad decisions, the bad choices that I made. So I talked about my background, and that actually helped to paint a bigger picture. It wasn't just as if, I was this person that went out and just made these horrible decisions, but I painted the full picture. The other thing that I made sure that I did was I got a lot of advice from lawyers who were already practicing law, who had gone through the bar admission process, obviously having gone through law school and the law school application process. I got a lot of advice from lawyers as to how to structure my application package, making sure that I got the best recommendations that I could so that it did show an accurate reflection of my character, because how many of us know that when you have those types of, when you have that record, when you have that past, sometimes that can speak so loudly. So if you don't speak over that, if you don't speak over that, it's going to speak for you, and people are going to have their the stereotypes, and they're going to have their biases. They're going to have, all of the different assumptions based on what they see in front of them in black and white. So you have to paint that picture over that. So I got a lot of great advice. So I would advise everyone, and the multitude of counselors, their safety, get as many people that have already gone through the process to advise you on what to do and how to structure that application. That helped me tremendously. One thing that I wish I did do was retake the LSAT. I landed at the greatest law school I think I could have ever graduated from, New York Law School. I love it. They accepted me, and they loved me from day one. I loved them from day one. I don't think I could have landed in a better place, right in the heart of New York City in Tribeca. But I did not, I limited myself because I only took the LSAT once. Matter of fact, I didn't even practice for the LSAT, unfortunately. I just took it, and then whatever school, with the score I got, I just applied. I would love to say that I did more with that, but so I would highly recommend that everyone utilize as many as many of the options that are available to you, as many of the resources that are available to you, the LSAT practice exams and things of that nature, and like I said, mentors. Get it, you got to jack people for information. You got to pick people's brains. You've got to, find out as much as you can from people that have already gone through it. This is a great resource. Everyone that hasn't yet applied to law school or is in the process of applying, I commend you for even watching this live, because it just shows you have that type of fortitude and that resilience already. And honestly, that's another thing that it's going to take. I apologize if the view is not that great. I had a lot of things I had to do tonight, but yeah, I just want to encourage everyone that's watching, that need this type of advice. Continue to get as much information as you possibly can to give you the best possible advantages that you can.
All right, now again, we're on with Dr. Mary Kay Holmes, lawyer, best-selling author. She dropped a whole bunch of gems. And for those who, of course, are just joining us, I'm going to break it down because I want to make sure that you guys catch these things, okay? So one of the top things that Dr. Mary Kay Holmes said is, you got to build a team. Now, your name may be on the application. Your name may be on the degree. However, the team that you surround yourself with will be able to determine how far you're able to go. Now, oftentimes when we look at the law school process, or even law school per se, yes, it does have just your name on it. However, in order for you to be able to move and navigate through spaces and open doors for yourself, it becomes important to be able to build a team. Now, oftentimes that team can consist of pre-law advisors. Also, of course, that team will likely be built around relationships that you are going to have to build for yourself. Now, I'll tell you this now. If you want to be a lawyer, you can't be scared. You can't be cute. You can't be passive. It's too many people who want to apply to law school. There's too many people who are practicing law out there. So if you're passive and if you're scared, then maybe the legal career is not something for you. I'm sorry, I'm just honest with you. I'm telling you this before you spend your money, because I want you to understand that there are an abundance of resources out there that you're going to have to be able to capitalize on and take a step of faith on. Now, some of the resources that I encourage you guys to reach out to is, of course, your local bar associations. I've said this before. You do not have to have a license. You don't have to have a law degree. You do not even have to be enrolled in school to attend these bar association meetings. At these meetings, oftentimes, is a wealth of lawyers who are eager and anxious for an opportunity to mentor somebody. But you got to take a step. And if you a no, and I've heard no's several times, you keep on going. Because if you want this dream, you cannot allow anybody to take the dream for you. And so bar associations in states and local bar associations. I've spoken specifically about a lot of states have Black bar associations, Hispanic bar associations, Eastern Asian bar associations. So whatever situation that you feel the most comfortable in, I encourage you guys to go after this section, after this live, I encourage you to go to whatever state that you're located in. Go and look up the Bar Association. Go look at the events and find a way to attend them. These are great opportunities to be able to build your network, not just for applicants, but also for law students too. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get a job. And at the end of the day, if you're applying to law school, you're trying to get a letter and you're trying to get a mentor, because grades will only get you so far. Am I right, Dr. Mary?
That's right.
But relationships is what ultimately is going to help you get your foot in the door. And I'll say this to my law students out there, and I'm sure Dr. Mary can attest to this. Simplicity is a fantastic resource, but I hope you guys are paying attention. If you're relying on simplicity only for you to be able to get a job, you are hustling backwards. Am I speaking truth, Dr. Mary?
That's true.
If you're relying solely on the career services at your law school, and they may be fantastic, you're hustling backwards. You have to be invested in this process, because everybody and their mama is applying on simplicity. Everybody and their mama is going into the office to talk to career services. However, you're going to have to do something extra to be able to get those jobs. You're going to have to do something extra to be able to secure those relationships, those meaningful relationships that will be pay dividends for you, not just for law school, but also for a career once you graduate. Now, one of the things, of course, also time for us talking about specifically is I see that we had one particular question from a guest who shared he or she spent some time in jail, spent some time 4.5 years in jail, and he or she wanted to know how should they present themselves when applying to law school, and if in fact their criminal record will immediately cause some schools to say no.
One of the things I think that would be helpful is looking at some of the people that have recently applied for bar admission that have criminal records. Look at some of the things that they did. A lot of them, matter of fact, a few of them that I know, they use media to help them leverage their, visibility and to amplify their story and pretty much advocate on their behalf. Now, early on in applying to law school, that may not be something that might, it may not be something readily available to you as far as leveraging that type of media, because this is something that obviously they did when they were applying for bar admission. But the first thing you have to do is go full force into the application process as if you have just as much of a shot as any other applicant. So don't let it intimidate you. That you've got to have that fortitude, that grit out the gate, and you got to have that confidence. You have to, pretty much blaze your trail as if you belong there. So don't let that, and I know that, especially because of the charge that you have, just to be bluntly honest, I know that that is something that would shock the conscience, so to speak. I'm, using those lawyer terms. It is something that will definitely shock the conscience of someone reading your admission application. I'm going to be completely honest with you. However, like I said, you've got to paint your own picture. You've got to, write your narrative. You've got to explain the circumstances that led up to that. Was it a matter of the wrong place at the wrong time? Paint that human picture. Let them see the human side of your story. Don't let them just see a charge and, time served or probation or whatever it is that you have on your record. Don't let them just see that and just explain it and explain the charges. No, you paint a picture. You tell a story. And when you tell that story, it's going to hit home to someone. I don't know, what schools you're applying to, but I know for me, the admissions staff at my school, they were very down to earth. And so when I met them in person, I realized these are the people that read my application, and I realized that the type of personalities that they had, they were very sympathetic toward how I painted that picture. So don't look at these admissions staff. Don't look at the admissions team or the dean of admissions, whoever's reviewing these essays and reviewing your application. Don't look at them as just some like mechanical, robotic people. They have the ability to be sensitive to your story. I've met too many people that have looked at me and said, like, I'm so glad that you had the courage to apply, because what I saw on paper does not match what I see in front of me. And what and who you are is not defined by what you have on your criminal record. Your criminal history does not define you. You have to define yourself. You have to write that narrative. So I encourage you to go ahead and do it, and don't let anything stop you. And if a door is closed in your face, you bust open another one. Do what you got to do.
And that's all facts. Again, Dr. Mary Kay Holmes, lawyer. That's again, I wanted to enforce that, okay? And I want to say it. You said it very delicately. I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna be real with you. There's 205 law schools out there, okay? And if a law school does not want you, guess what? It's their loss. That's the reality that you have to understand and embrace. If the law school is saying no to you, guess what? They are doing you a favor, because you want to make sure that you're going to be in a law school that's going to provide you with the support system that you need. And sometimes one of the best ways to be able to do this, and I know it's something that you may not want to do, but just contact the law school specifically. You don't have to disclose your name, because I did this all the time. And I explained my case. Do you have of acceptance who either one in my case had been academically dismissed, or in somebody else's case, have you ever had a history of accepting people who had a criminal record, who had a particular charge? And you need to get these answers. And although I definitely did get a lot of no's from law schools that said we don't accept people who've been dismissed, it saved me a lot of time, and it saved me a lot of energy, and allowed me to be able to pinpoint and focus all my energy into applying to the schools that fit me. One of the things that you're also going to have to do, specifically if in fact you do have a criminal record in a past, and even a misdemeanor, or even if you've had it expunged, is you want to make sure and go and look at the bar association where you plan on sitting for the bar. Although every bar association is different, you want to make sure that you are putting yourself in a position where you'll be able to get approved for the character and fitness. Dr. Mary spoke on it briefly, talking about at the end of the day, your goal is to be able to sit for the bar exam. And they're going to go through your background. They're going to go through, they do investigations. They had asked about my credit. I had to tell them, they said, why your credit like this? I said, because my mom wasn't a doctor and lawyer. That was cool. But nevertheless, what you have to be able to understand is that there are some states that will not let people sit for the bar if, in fact, they do have a criminal record. I'm not throwing any shade to any states, because one of the states is where I'm from. Tennessee, Arkansas, and Florida. Those three states specifically do not allow people to sit for the bar if, in fact, they have a felony record. And again, I love my home state, but nevertheless, these rules are something that are patently unfair. And a recent Yale law graduate who, of course, had a felony record, he had to petition the courts and use the media to be able to sit for the bar in New Jersey. So I want you guys to be able to understand that you have to be aware of that. So you have to be aware of what your past is and what path you're going to be able to take to be able to ultimately sit for the bar and ultimately be able to practice law. And so I want to make sure that you have that information and you are informed. Now, again, let's continue this conversation specifically. When you went about making a decision about discussing your past regarding to your addendums or to your character and fitness, one of the things that people ask specifically is how long was it? And what was the formula that you used to discuss it? Because some people sometimes make the mistake of pointing fingers and blaming other people. So your formula, because whatever you did worked. Because people without pass don't get money. You not only got, you got acceptances too. So what's
Well, like I said, you gotta disclose everything. Full disclosure is paramount. But the other thing that I did was I did not point fingers. I made sure that I owned every mistake that I made. I made sure that I owned it. I made sure that I took full responsibility for it. And there's a difference between, like, I've mentioned several times about painting that picture and writing your own narrative. But you don't want to sugarcoat anything. You don't want to gloss over anything. You don't want to make excuses for things. So there's that balance between, fully disclosing what occurred in your past, but at the same time, wording it in a way, and like I said, making it more palatable, while at the same time being totally honest, but yet taking full responsibility, but in a way that paints a full story. So for a prime example, I talked about how I was raised in a household where one of the parents was addicted to crack cocaine. And he was also an alcoholic. So I grew up in that environment, and being raised in that type of upbringing, and in the inner city where there's a lot of gang violence, where there's a lot of room for getting in to get in trouble and run with the wrong crowd. My criminal past started fairly early, and being 14 years old and pregnant, just my life did not, I'm sure many of those admissions staff members, whoever they were that were reviewing my application, I'm sure many of them didn't have to deal with those types of obstacles and traumas in their childhood. So that made it, I'm sure that, especially now that I know a lot of them at my school, I'm sure that they looked at that and said, okay, if I had to navigate through these types of obstacles in my childhood, maybe my past wouldn't be as cookie cutter, and that wouldn't be as squeaky clean as it is. So I painted that. I told the story of where I came from and how I wound up making those choices, but I never made it seem as if I was forced to make those decisions, or it wasn't my fault, or I was wrongly accused, or I didn't do it. If I was wrongly accused, I would have said it, but the things that I did, I was guilty. So I admitted that guilt. And so I think that it's like you have to admit it and then move on. You have to admit it and then tell the story, move on from the explanation part about what happened. Give the details, give the facts, just go straight to the facts, but then just pretty much the best way I can put it is just you have to wow them with your story, and not in a good way, but that you have to make them say, whoa, like now I can see how a person could end up in that type of environment and make those kind of decisions. Now I can see the type of environment that this person grew up in that led down that path, or led her down this path. Now I can see how a person could feel as if these are the only options available to her, without me saying it, without me saying I had no choice. One of the things on my criminal record occurred because I was in an abusive relationship, and for 7 years I was pretty much held captive in this relationship by someone who was 21 years older than I was. And some of the decisions that I made, I was forced into making those decisions, but I took responsibility for it, but I told the story so that it was pretty much said without saying it, that these circumstances, I was pretty much backed into a corner. And so I when I was writing my essays and filling out the information as far as my past, I didn't think of it as having a formula at that time. All I knew was that I had to give them the detail. I had to disclose it, but I didn't want to just disclose it and just leave it at that, because I knew it looked bad. It looked horrible. I'm one of those people. I don't know how many of you are on here that are like me. I don't have just one or two charges. I have a rap sheet. I have a rap sheet that's probably taller than me. If I was to take it out and have it page by page, unfortunately, that's my past. But the good thing about it is that I am that living proof now, and there's many others like me that can show those that are intimidated by the process, that have these things in their past, that it is possible, that you can outlive that you can get to the other side of success. You can live on the other side of trauma. You can live on the other side of those setbacks in life, that these things they won't hold. The only thing that can hold you back is you. If you don't take those chances, if you don't take those steps, that's the only thing that's really going to hold you back. And I believe that when a law school applicant that has these things on their record, when they apply, when they're bold enough to do it, I think that makes us shine even more, because it shows like this person has grit, this person is resilient, this person is bold. Those are the kind of people that we need in this legal field, who are not afraid, who are not intimidated, They can go and advocate on behalf of somebody else because they know what it's like. They know what that experience is like. They can be more sympathetic to their clients. These are the types of things that actually can become skills and translate into positives in this industry, because there's so many people out there that need an advocate that are not so far removed from where these clients are, especially if you're getting involved in criminal law, whether it's defense or prosecution. When you have that level of sympathy and empathy for other people, you can't learn that in law school. A law professor can't teach that to someone like us that have these types of paths. It can't be fed to us. It's something that's just in us because we lived it, we came out of it, and now we're able to say, okay, now I'm on the right side of the law, and I can help somebody else to stay on the right side of law, or just advocate for someone who has been through setbacks in life, whatever they might be. So one of the first things I did when I got into law school was join the Courtroom Advocates Project. And I went into courtrooms and I spoke on behalf of clients that were in domestic violence situations, clients who were trying to get temporary restraining orders. And I was able to, empathize with them and better represent them because I had those types of experiences as well.
Right. Okay. So again, Dr. Mary Kay Holmes, she dropped some gems. We're going to break them down because I want to make sure that you got all of them. All right. So first thing she said, you have to be transparent. Okay. You have to put everything out there. Not too long ago, somebody who had at Harvard Law School, literally dismissed from law school, and they still had to carry on the loans because they found out that they had lied in their application. So be transparent, number one. Number two, what Dr. Kay Holmes said is you're going to have to provide, one, receipts of growth, and two, also be able to show accountability. They don't like to hear excuses because guess
Right.
what? You become an attorney and you become practicing, you can't give excuses to your clients. And you know what? If you are giving excuses in your application, you're going to lead them to believe that you're going to give them excuses if they allow you to go to their law school. Okay? And so we don't want to do that. And understand that the only way that you're going to be able to find your way taking the next step to your lawyer dreams is you're going to have to really put yourself out there and really share your story. I had a client earlier today, and she told me, I felt like my personal statement in diversity essay was a confessional. I was like, well, to a degree it is, because you are being, what is it called? A personal statement? The whole purpose is to be able to really identify why it is that you want to be a lawyer. There are so many other people that have the same score as you. There are so many people who have better GPAs than you. There are so many people who may have supposedly more impressive resumes than you. However, the only way that you're going to be able to set yourself apart is by sharing an authentic story that is your story, a story that nobody else can share, and giving yourself the best chance to be able to get admitted into law school. We lost Dr. Mary for a second. If she's able to come back, we were more than welcome to have her. But one of the things I want you guys to be able to understand, the whole purpose of having Dr. Mary Kay Holmes on the line in the first place is we want you guys to be able to understand specifically that becoming a lawyer is something that you can do regardless of your past. And I know I have a lot of people that be like, well, you know what? I had to transfer schools and, I got dismissed from law school. Well, we just have somebody here speaking to you who she just said she had a track record, a criminal past as big as tall as her, and she made it happen. So it is something that can be done. And do not believe that your mistakes or decisions that you may have made in the past that you may not be proud of is something that's a disqualifying characteristic, okay? And so again, continue to fill out the chat log in the box. We want to make sure that we're answering your questions. In addition to that, we want to make sure that you guys are getting these gems to make sure that you're being successful. Now, another thing that Dr. Holmes definitely pointed out, and all the gems that she dropped as well, is it's going to be very important for you to be able to understand and have an awareness of the fact that you may have made a mistake in the past. And if you attempt, please don't do this, if you attempt to not address your past, you are now giving law schools a license to just judge you based off of your past. You're now giving the law schools a green light to say that, you know what, they're not being transparent. That may be a sign of not growing. And also, it is definitely a sign of you not being able to follow instructions. And not being able to do those things are huge red flags. It may sound minor, but in the field of law, even in law school, Dr. Mary can attest to this, details are so important. So little details like grammatical errors, double spellings, run-on sentences, or failing to completely answer the question that they ask you in that law school application, irregardless of what your LSAT score is, irregardless of what your GPA is, you're giving them an opportunity to say no to you. And you don't want to find yourself in that position because you invested so much time. Because I don't know about you, but last time I checked, ain't no money trees outside. And all that time and all that money is something that you want to make sure that you get a return on your investment. But again, let's continue. We have some more questions. I want to make sure that we are always answering questions. So we have somebody talking about LSE state that I need to turn in community college transcripts. The schools I want to go to said that they are not needed. Do I send them anyway? I will tell you this, send everything. I've never, ever heard in my life of a law school saying that you sent me too much information. You want to be like Dr. Mary Holmes said. You want full disclosure. One thing that you want to do, if there's any gaps in your resume, if there's any gaps in your education, you have to make sure that you are addressing those things. You know what they say when you make an assumption. And if you're investing all this time and energy in this process, you don't want nobody to make assumptions about you. You want to make sure that you're covering every detail. Feel free to chime in, Dr. Mary.
Yes, I absolutely agree. You have to give as much detail as possible. Don't feel like you're giving them too much information or it will be information overload. They appreciate that. Now, and this is what this process is for, because like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the things that you're going to have to disclose on your bar admission paperwork is going to be some of the same things that you have to disclose up front in getting into law school. And if there's any discrepancies between what you disclosed up front and what you were disclosing 3 years later, that's going to look bad. Number one, it's going to make you look like maybe you're not fit to practice law because you don't have that attention to detail, or you're reneging on information, or you have to fix errors, or you have to fix gaps or fill in gaps, or maybe you left something out, and that absent-mindedness is not going to be a good look, because the hallmarks of a good lawyer is that attention to detail, is that, that editing and that proofreading, that going over things with that fine-tooth comb. So doing that now early on is going to show, on your law school application that you have what it takes to go into this field, because there's going to be certain things that you're just going to, I'm sure most schools do this now. My school certainly did it, in your 1L year, you're doing things like the practical things with law, writing memos and writing briefs. And you're going to learn very early on that, that you're going to have to learn how to do your due diligence and getting the information right the first time. A lot of times when, you're doing this paperwork, it can seem tedious and you might want to try to cut corners and take shortcuts. Don't do that.
Nope.
Be thorough. Be as thorough as possible. This is the time that you're really showing that you have what it takes. You're showing that you're made of the type of the character that's needed to carry you into not only your law school career but beyond that. If you start cutting corners now, that's going to be a trait that you're going to continue to reinforce throughout your law school career and into your legal career if you're able to go into that. So don't get into the habit of trying to take those shortcuts. So specifically to the question that was asked, get those college transcripts, get the community college transcript. Listen, there was a school that I went to where I took one course. It was an online school, and I forgot that I had enrolled in it years ago. And I said, the first thing I said was, okay, it was one course, but then I caught myself and I said, nope, that one class, I got to go through the hassle of contacting this school, getting going into my emails, trying to find out what my user ID was, requesting that transcript, waiting. And yes, it delayed my application a little bit because I had to wait for that transcript, but I knew that I had to disclose it because later on, you don't want something that small, that minor to hinder you in the future. You don't want some small little setback to trip you up after going through law school for 3 years. And then later on, it looks like you hid something or you took a shortcut that really can cost you your entire career. So learn that lesson early on. Due diligence and full disclosure And you can't, there's no such thing as disclosing too much when it comes to this law school application process.
Absolutely. Again, this is Making the Case for Your Lawyer Dreams. We, of course, have a featured guest and Dr. Mary Kay Holmes. Now, we have a lot of questions on here, and I want to make sure that we address some of these things specifically tailored to you. Now, one of the biggest myths out there that we need to go ahead and bring truth to power. You can be a lawyer, you can go to law school and have kids. A lot of you guys out there, for some reason, I don't know why law schools don't do this. I wish that they would. There's so many families, parents, fathers in law school, managing families and also managing law school. I did it with 2 kids. Dr. Mary did it as well. So I want you to go ahead and tell them about how having a family factored in your law school decisions and how it helped, how you were able to balance and manage that as well.
It's definitely doable. It's not only just it's more than doable. And I say that because not only have I done it, but I saw so many other students that were parents. Like I saw, students studying for midterms and exams with their kids at the school. And there's been, we have like offices for the different student organizations. And I was a member of the Black Law Student Association and the First Generation Professionals. First Generational Professionals has this large office at my school. I've seen people in there with their children doing homework. And the children doing homework on one side, they're studying for the midterm on the other side. There's a certain culture that you start to develop in law school where you develop this like family unit where people will bring in like, lunch or dinner. If you're a evening student, I've seen them bring in dinners where, the dean of the school would sometimes, like if there's an event at the school, all of the food, they would bring it downstairs so that all the evening students don't have to rush home to go eat. The professors that taught the evening classes for people who were working or had children, they would make sure that they had food available for those, little things like that. You'll find that I'm sure that no matter what law school you go to, you'll develop those types of circles and that support system. And not only that, but when you have a support system at home, that obviously will help, people that can, pick up your son or your daughter or your kids from the bus stop or whatever, navigating through that, when you have school age children, the support system is crucial. But I'm not going to lie, it is more challenging. It is difficult. But one of the people that I got a scholarship from, she was a mother while she was in law school, and she wanted to give back to another mom. And I was able to win that scholarship in my second year because I talked about my life as a parent and being in law school. And so she did it, and this is someone who was very driven, who graduated at the top of her class and had children while she was going to law school. And then I met people who gave birth to children in law school who had to take a semester off and they went right back into it. I've seen too many stories, been witness to so many people that made it work. They were able to make it happen. And yes, things come up where, emergencies happen and, you're worried about, did I miss one too many classes? Working with your professors, when that time comes and hopefully this will not have to happen for many of you that have children. But if you do go into law school and you have children, a lot of times the professors, they're very understanding, but at the same time, you don't want to overextend the passes, so to speak, overextend. So there's going to be some sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And that's just God's honest truth. But be willing to make those sacrifices. Don't apologize for it. Don't feel guilty about it, because what you're doing is not just for you, but it's for your child also. So this is something that you're investing in yourself, but you're investing this into your child. So don't make yourself feel like you're a horrible parent for focusing too heavily on studying for your finals when you want to go to the parent teacher conferences, or maybe you might have to miss a couple of those, or whatever the case might be. This is a sacrifice, but it's going to be worth it. And I've seen it time and time again. My children were not young. They weren't little when I was going through law school, act like it was a long time ago. But these past 3 years, I didn't have, little children that I had to bring into the school with me, but I've seen so many other students do that. And so I know that it's possible. I've witnessed it, and I was able to live through that. I have adult stepchildren, being married. I have adult stepchildren that drove me absolutely crazy while I was in law school. They, and those things distracted me, honestly. But I got through it. So if I got through with those distractions, and that might not be everybody's story. Maybe you won't have as tough of a ride as some others, and like myself, have had with children and in school. And I have 6 grandchildren, so I know I don't look like it, but yeah. Oh, you got some too. So I got 6 grandbabies, and I absolutely love them. But there were times when I felt like I was gonna pull my hair out with the type of you know obstacles that I face with that. And so blended families and all of these things, moving in the middle of my first semester of law school, packing up and moving right before finals, uprooting, all of these things happen, but I got through it. And because I got through it, I can tell you with confidence that it is possible. One of the things I was concerned about was like, oh, am I going to be able to get away, go on vacations, relax, is it going to be just work, work, work? Listen, I went to Costa Rica, Puerto Rico. I studied abroad one summer. I went to Paris. I went to Spain. I went to Morocco. I went to Greece. Listen, my point is, there's time for relaxation and fun to just regroup and incorporate all of those things, and that mental health component. There's time to raise your children. There's time to tend to those family matters. But at the same time, I don't believe everyone's going to have as tough of a time as I did. So I know that it's more than possible for the majority of you all.
And one of the things I always try to do is understand that going to law school with children is not something new. If in fact you go and look at our IG page, the first Black woman lawyer to ever, from the state of Oklahoma, before Civil Rights Act of 1964, she went to law school, had 2 kids, and made it happen. And although, of course, she had at one point to sit behind a colored sign and surrounded by security guards, National Guard, she still made it happen. And what I want you guys to be able to understand, she said a powerful quote. She said that if I can study and prepare behind a colors-only sign, surrounded by National Guard, I believe that you guys out there can be able to overcome your challenges that you think are hard. And so understand that it's something that has been done before. And I did it too as well. And so I want you guys to be able to understand that things like children, things like a certain age, you can be over 30 and go to law school. You can have mistakes and go to law school. You can have children and go to law school. Tomorrow we're going to have a guest on, Journey Reed. She had 3 babies and graduated from law school. So it's something that can be done, but we want to make sure that you guys are able to get the tools from the people who have done it so you can be able to understand, so you can successfully navigate that process as well. Because one of the things that you begin to understand, and I think it was fantastic, Dr. Mary Kay said was specifically, it's because you have family, it's because you have children, that the dream is something bigger than you. And when law schools see that, they are aware that because of them, you will be successful. Because it's not just about you going and trying to do it for yourself. And that's something that inspires people. And what you want to be able to understand is make sure that you incorporate all of that, package everything, all of your experiences in your presentation of yourself. Let's go ahead and go through some of these questions. Somebody asked a question specifically about relocating with a toddler. I'll tell you this, because when I went to law school, unlike Dr. Mary, my daughter was 1 year old, and then my second year of law school, my son was 3 years old. And so you have to be able to understand is that your path is just going to be different. You got to accept it, all right? You're not going to be able to do all the things or be involved in as many things as possible. But nevertheless, you cannot allow there to be an excuse for you not to be able to perform at that same level. Because, again, when it comes to law school, it ain't about excuses. It's about results. And
right.
Results happen. So I know you're tired. But I'm sure law students out there, I'm sure lawyers listening to this, viewing this, and even Dr. Mary can say, you're tired now, go ahead and get used to it. That is the price of success. That is the price of growing and evolving and becoming something greater. So don't cry about getting tired. Get used to it and understand that you can be well rested and not moving in your life, or you can be exhausted and making progress towards your goals of becoming a lawyer.
Right. And I would add to that too, because a lot of people, like I just kind of ran down to you some of the obstacles I faced, and having a family